Ananke's Festival of Literature. I am honored and very excited to chair this and host you both. Naheed, you and I have been, sort of ships passing at different
Oh,
points,
I know.
but it's nice to finally see you and finally speak to you.
Same here.
And Yawar and I go way back. He's a good friend of mine. And I think I'm just going to get into introductions. Would you guys like to introduce yourself, or I'm happy to?
You will do a
Whatever
better
works for
job.
All right, I'll go for it. So a little bit about me. I'm Sara. I'm a creative consultant. I've been in advertising and communications for about 18 years, and I'm so happy to have you both here. I'll start with you, Naheed. Naheed is a marketing and communications professional. She started off in journalism and has so far co founded The Loop, which is a communications and PR agency in Dubai. And it specializes in working with service providers in education, art, design, tech, publishing. Wow. And she regularly writes for Khalij Times and on gender related themes for international women's initiatives. Welcome, Naheed, again.
Thank you.
Such a power list of things Naeed has done.
I know, I
Ah,
know.
I'm
Even when I was
really
reading, I was like,
really? Thank you.
And Yawar, hi.
Hi.
Yawar is a storyteller. He's a creative. His career is expanded over 21 plus years. He is currently heading a multidisciplinary creative studio. He has led the transformation on multiple brands. He's won a plethora of awards, and he's worked on brands like Lux, Sunsilk, and to this day, he continues to transform brands, lead advertising, and just tell really powerful and creative narratives and stories. So thank you
Thank
both.
you.
He's the right person for today's session, really.
Thank
You
you for
both
this.
are.
Uh,
You both are.
Let's see.
So, a little bit about the session, and then I'll jump right in. And, we'll just keep this free flowing and, as in whatever comes up. So, today's session is Selling the Truth, Advertising Influence and the Manipulation of Truth. And I think advertisers are such powerful perception makers and decision makers and just leaders. And today we'll be discussing the fine line between creative storytelling and mass manipulation, examining how brands and media and all the social media that we have out there and social campaigns influence truths in the public sphere and across minds, across nations. So I think I'll jump into the first question that I have for you guys, and which is, do you think that advertising reflects reality or the society that it operates in, or does it distort it?
Does both at different times. It depends on how it's done. And that's why there is a responsibility on not just advertising, but on media generally,
Yeah,
the world over. So it can reflect the society and it can actually make or break the society. It's that powerful.
yeah,
Because if media and advertising normalize something, which coming to Pakistan, a lot of things that weren't normal 20 years ago are suddenly normalized now because the media has normalized it. And so it's that kind of a powerful impact that advertising and media can have. So yeah, it depends really.
yeah.
I think also that this is a business of selling things.
Mm,
And every time we are curating a communication for a brand, it's always part of the objective and the brief, whether they want to have an altered version of consumer truth or consumer reality, which is their interpretation. At times, they want to have a very reflective interpretation of the consumer base that no, we know their truth, we know what they stand for, which we refer as, what the mass behavior is. But at times, brand sort of also dictates you or requests you to curate a parallel universe of belief system. So I think we have to work on both. When we say distorting, I mean, it sounds sort of negative that,
Mm.
we sort of change the syntax of the truth. But at times you elevate that. Like I have multiple examples where we have shown consumer base really deeply truthful advertising. And when we go in a focus group and the same consumer rejects it completely, despite the fact it's so true to who they are, in terms of emotion, in terms of empathy building, in terms of the way they are appearing. And the same housewives, and Pakistan is a primarily housewife-based market for communication advertising, and they will reject it. They're like, no, but we don't want this. We want something else. Uh, and that's why I think cinema helps to find that escapism of, well, it's not my truth, but it's someone's truth, and I believe it. So I think we do both by design. Uh,
So you're saying that we learn, or advertising learns from it as well as elevates it, maybe.
I mean, depending how you want to build up a story.
Mm.
Uh, Most of, and I've seen this with, we all work for the world now, not
Mm.
just a third world country like Pakistan or primarily Bangladesh or other third world countries. And I'm quoting examples of third world countries because, it's our truth also. And
Right.
I've seen is that the most evolved markets, they love to show reality the way it is because it's their truth. The emotions are so raw and it's pure. And when we do the same in a country like Pakistan, which has been a colonial, state, lots of complexes, lots of socio-political issues, it's also a very poor country. People
Mm.
don't want to see that kind of truth. They are not in the mood to do it. We
So
also have
it's escapism. It's
yeah,
escapism that
absolutely. And also, Naheed, that, in a country like Pakistan, which has a fundamentally Islamic Sharia law, the cinema died by design.
yeah.
So when you don't have any imaginative piece of visualization out there,
Mm.
advertising started looking like cinema pieces, which is exaggerated, larger than life, not my truth, but someone else's truth.
Yeah.
And we have seen this in the 90s Bollywood also. It wasn't reflective of the Bombay we have seen or the real India we have seen. It was this exaggerated choppers flying high universe.
Yes.
So, I think at times we distort or change because that's what the need of the hour is. Does it impact society at large? Yes. And I think we all learn and we say, okay, maybe we pushed
Mm.
this too much and now
Yeah, your voice just broke up. Sorry, can you just repeat the last sentence?
this is our Zohar Azan time. So now you will might hear me less and the Azan more. So I'll try to speak
You're fine. Yeah.
louder. So I'm saying that at times we do realize when we are distorting the truth and the repercussions of it.
Mm.
I think all the creatives are extremely sensitive and aware. We are extremely intelligent beings. We know, and then we know, okay, how to fix it later, or at least how to have a conversation with the people investing their money in the business, that maybe we are pushing it a little too much. I don't know if I get quoting examples. Am I taking too much time? Please, you and
No,
Naheed.
no, absolutely. Please
And,
carry on.
So
what you're saying is distorting truth, distort truth, but do it with something good in
yes,
mind,
with
what I'm
consciousness, absolutely.
yeah, with and because there is, as we all agree, there is potential for a big impact here in the way media and advertising and cinema and all kinds of media operates. So distorting truth for the betterment of a society, yes, we have the power to do that. But what's happening in a lot of countries, not just in Pakistan, but the world over, the truth is distorted to actually harm, in the longer run, not immediate, but in the longer run. And that's where, questions need to be asked. And I agree with your escapism point of view, because I think in all developing countries, life is so difficult that escapism is needed. And yeah, our Pakistani ads, each time I'm in Pakistan, I'm watching television with my mom, and those ads are like entertaining. So, and I think it's still true for India, if you
Yeah.
see Indian ads, there's still many sort of storytelling, which is brilliant, but tell stories that can have a positive impact, that's my bugbear really about advertising.
Because like I worked for in the beauty category of advertising for a substantially long time. I'm old now. And I think the idea of beauty was so one-dimensional in the country, especially with the leading beauty brands endorsing a version of beauty, which never existed in the country at large. We are brown skin people. Our women are, and talking about women and beauty industry together, women are never thin by design. The subcontinent body shape is very different, especially when they get married. All of those are truth of the matter, but you will never see that in advertising or communication.
Yeah,
You will always, and I remember so many, and I think we all are in advertising. We have been to the when we're reviewing audition tapes and casting tapes for talent. We all have seen that. And as much as we want to push for, oh, let's go for a girl who looks like a Pakistani girl. She's slightly tanner. She's not size 0 or 2 or 4 or 6. Uh, and that girl will be the first one on the chopping board because we will go for the most uh, synthetic looking, most appreciated one-dimensional idea of beauty in the country, which doesn't exist. And unfortunately, she happened to have either green or hazel eyes and fair skin. Uh, and I always used to say that, but that's just one person that you are looking at. This is, but everybody aspires to be like that one person. That I think damaged a lot. We see in Pakistan and a lot of we see this in Brazil, we see this in the rest of the world, how the Korean beauty brands took over the world with fairness. And we knew it has lead and mercury, it caused cancer in women and all of those. But you go to tier 3 towns in Pakistan and every town has their own version of fairness cream,
very.
promising you will get hitched tomorrow. There's a one brand that said, Aaj lagao, kal shadi. Like you will apply today, tomorrow you will land a beautiful husband, a rich husband. Uh, that to me is, what is extremely damaging uh,
Damaging.
about advertising at large. We know for a fact that after giving birth, South Asian women do tend to put on weight. That's how their body functions. Now you see actresses, top leading actresses, 10 days later, back on the shoot, looking so thin. And you go to focus groups and women are extremely depressed. They're like, I'm really trying hard. I'm really trying hard to, but somehow my body is not communicating. Not everybody can have the infrastructure of the gym instructors and dietitians. So a lot of, I feel, damage has been done in the interpretation of women. Uh,
And
i-
Yawar,
i-
it's not just Pakistan,
yeah, I
it's really the
know.
world over.
True, true,
So you
true.
look at you look at ads for major brands like Chanel or Gucci or whatever, and all these girls are, I think, in their teens or early 20s, and they're shown to be the epitome of beauty, of feminine, whatever the way women should look like. And no, none of us looks like that. And we are the buyers, women in their 40s are we have the money, and yet none of those models look like us. And it's just such an unrealistic aspiration to have, a woman in her, I mean, you're talking about new mothers and all that, but when you look at, economic sense, if you're looking at female buyers, it's the women in their late 30s, from late 30s to early 60s, who are more established, who have more money, who have more buying power. And yet the ads don't feature women like them. They feature these stick thin, beautiful looking, pale looking models who are maybe old enough to be their daughters. And, and it doesn't make sense, really. So who defines what a woman should look like? Who defines female beauty? And that's the question. It's just make it more realistic. But I guess, as you said, we don't want realism. So
But that brings me, because listening to both of you, it seems that advertising does have a lot of influence and does feed from the society that it breeds in, to use a crass word. But at the same time, you're saying that there is a level of untouchability to it as well, right? Which is depressing the masses. It's ostracizing them. So where do advertisers come in here? Like, I understand that brands put pressure and they want their brand to be associated with an idealistic sort of thing. But if advertising does have that kind of mass influence and can lead to damaging narratives, where do the ethics of it come in, right? Like, who puts in, I mean, as in, what I would like to know from both of you is, how far do we let things role, and where do we put an end when it comes to, an ethical stance?
Well, there have been occasional, campaigns where they have tried to make it more realistic, more
Right,
brown skinned women, more, not size 0, but size 10 or 12 or whatever.
right,
Um, but it's just not done at a bigger scale. And Yawar works in advertising, I don't, but I think that's the demand of the brands, and not just in developing countries, but all over the world. And that's why, with these fashion shows, especially beauty and fashion industry, that's why they look out for these girls who are just a completely unrealistic model of a woman's body. So until the brands really agree on that without adding a tag of, oh, we cater to oversized women or plus size women, don't put tags, because we come in all sizes and shapes, really, as do men. So I don't know, Yavar, you tell us more
So
about it.
I have learned this over time that a singular voice don't last for longer in a close quarter or a boardroom. I think first we need to, within the agency system, need to have our own support system and circle of friends and believers who believe that change is important, or saying the right thing is important at this point. And you need to have this collective consciousness that needs to come from within as a group. And I have seen that when you have three top tier people in the agency, like the creative head or the strategy head or the business head, when they come together and they say, actually, we don't like what you're saying. We feel it's time for us to say something else or change. I'll give you a small example. Um, I'm sure we all can recall a dairy milk ad, like a milk brand ad, not dairy milk, the chocolate, but like any morning breakfast staple ad in Southeast Asia. And you will see, this beautiful sunlight coming in, and there's a stunning mother. She walks in the kitchen and she can quickly churn out five things in the morning. And pretty much that was the staple for every breakfast staple ad in the world, where the moms are looking beautiful at 7 a.m. And I remember I was working for a dairy brand, and my house looked very different at 7 a.m. You know, the moms are cranky, angry, sleep deprived, especially with young kids. Women get married very young in most parts of the world. Uh, Kids are always angry and cranky in the morning. Husband has to rush for work. Even if they have to rush for work, they never look perfect with blow dry, perfect skin, perfect clothes, perfect anything. It's always mismatched. And
Same in the morning, yeah.
it's also chaotic, in the morning when you know that the school van is honking outside on the door, your husband is saying, asking for something. It's never a very happy, pleasant way to look at. Mornings are tough for moms. And I remember we went to the brand and we said, we can't put too much pressure on her to even look good at 7 a.m. This is undue pressure on mothers who are watching this campaign, that I have to make sure that I have 5 kinds of eggs, 2 kinds of pancakes and waffles. Who has time to make all these things? And yes, we know that you want to put your butter and your cream and your cheese, everything. Having said that, she can't. Husband has to make half the things, and she will not be dressed up. She will be in her pajama suit, angry and yawning and sleep deprived. And just my voice would not have helped the cause. You needed consumer interviews. You needed to talk, have one-on-one conversation with the consumer, that can you send us a picture of how do you look in the morning? Of course, they have dark circles, and of course, the lips are chipped. Of course, there's a messy bun, and the clothes are always mismatched. Nobody goes to bed in beautiful chiffon outfits. Uh, that change of the conversation took us 6 months, because nobody wanted to have, everybody was like, why do you want to change it? Why can't women look beautiful at 7 a.m.? It's their right to look stunning. To us, it was, why put undue pressure on a young mom who is also struggling to figure out how to raise my kids, uh, how to make sure that they look sharp in the
Yeah.
morning.
And
A
that brings
smaller,
us to
uh,
another point as well, Yawar, that why do women have to do all the work? So
yes,
again, especially in our context, South Asian context, and I've seen some Indian ads that are
yeah.
doing a good job on changing that perception. Men helping in the kitchen, dads helping in the kitchen, which is a great thing, which still doesn't happen in our homes. sadly.
And that's where I realize the positive impact when brands really want to do something through communication. It is such a strong medium. Even if we see a husband sort of whisking eggs in the morning, that's enough of a cue for them
Exactly.
to, and they might find it very jolting that, oh, but my husband never comes. Then the whole idea of real men don't go to the kitchen, and the subcontinent masculinity gets so challenged when we see men doing things which are slightly alternate. But having said that,
That's why
that's where
normalization, that's the thing, normalizing things,
absolutely,
so if you keep seeing something, it normalizes in your head. But if you don't see
Absolutely.
things like
Yeah.
that, so you look at Pakistani television now, and I again, watch that on my monthly visits to see my mom, and it's really all really young girls playing wives and mothers, and if you show somebody who's working, it's always, they don't even know what they're doing, or they're not nice girls or whatever. So it's normalizing things that are not good for the society. So same with ads, normalize things. And those are a very 30-second, 1 minute, really impactful opportunities that can be, used for proper change in the society. So just this
and
thing,
and we have
men
seen,
helping in the
uh,
morning. Why not? Right?
we have seen when we change the narrative. We have seen the power of advertising. I remember when contraceptives came to Pakistan, and I was riding that wave of change. And when we were telling people that population is a major problem, or when we were doing the polio campaigns, Pakistan is one of maybe the only country now still with people
Yeah.
suffering with polio. We have seen this, the migration of a rag cloth to a tampon or a sanitary pad, and the positive impact of it. That why do young girls need to have a sanitary pad? It's their legal right to have it. We have seen all of those things. We talked about the neonatal health, or we talked about young moms and why you can't burden them with too many kids, and why contraceptives are important. And those were very tricky things that became part of the day-to-day conversation, and advertising changed all of that, in especially in a country like with Pakistan or India, Brazil, Sri Lanka, Mexico, where we know that these things were a taboo conversation, but also that it was the woman who was also letting it happen. They're like, no, I don't think they were not ready for change, but some people, the smarter ones, they're like, it's time for us to change that. And there are countless examples of when advertising did a lot of good. Uh, when we came together and we said, no. I
It
remember,
happens over time. It happens over time, it
uh,
takes time. So you look at American ads, from the 50s, 60s. Again, women are shown in a certain way, and they are just, nicely dressed, same as you explain, nicely dressed in the morning, looking after everything, just being housewives and moms, and that was their roles. And men, so very clearly defined roles. And but the society evolved, and advertising evolved with that. So do they evolve simultaneously, or does one push the other to change? That's the question, really.
but also, and these are very smaller things that we all can do. I remember when the breast cancer awareness campaign, we started talking about it, and the word breast you couldn't use in mainstream media. They thought it's a sexual term, it titillates. And we said, but how else will you say? This is say chest. Then it's not the same thing. It's breast cancer. And a lot of back and forth with different media channels and the government responsible. And we're like, you have to say it, whether you say it in Urdu, which is chati ka sartan, and they say with the word chati might take away the sexual context. These are very smaller things, but now you can openly say breast cancer or breast cancer awareness. People are, so when advertising does something good, you normalize something which was so controversial a few years ago, or taboo, and then when we all get behind it as one unified force that no, we have to change this. That's when I think real magic happens. So while we distort things, we also, may evolve them uh, to something better that impacts the larger society.
But Yawar, I've heard you mention. I mean, you both mentioned, the causes that advertising has gotten behind and how they've changed the narrative when it comes to that. But do you think that it's only when there's a cause involved? Because that could, I mean, brands could have different reasons for that, right? Or do you think that if brands were generically talking just about the brand, there would be like an elevation of message or a change of narrative? Do you think brands are exploring that as well? Or is it only when
I,
it's cause related?
no,
It
I'm
shouldn't be cause driven.
it shouldn't
Shouldn't
be.
be cause
Uh,
driven. Yeah.
you can't do one-off CSR agenda-driven work. Uh,
Yeah.
Advertising runs 50 times a day versus any other visual medium in the country. It runs so much on daily basis. We have the power of hammering the message. And I think most of the smarter brands are making it part of the brand DNA versus doing the one-off things. And we have seen that. And also, these will be very subtle changes. But because you will run it so much, people will start picking it up, whether be showing a husband helping, or a not so evil mother in law, or a working woman also maybe not balancing it all at home. Like I think we need to let people make mistakes also, and not show the perfect housewife or the perfect working
Yes.
woman who is balancing the act at home and balancing the act at work. Like I remember these ads where she will be making business calls that yes, do this, and she's also making sure the house is, that's not possible. Like we all have working women around us. It is not possible for either of the genders or any of the genders for that matter. And advertising, we start seeing that it's okay, you will fail, and that's also, it's not a failure, it's a learning curve. So smaller things, but again, I feel like it's the intent. Advertising is intent. We are very much aware where we're going to land on the first day, when we're about to launch something. As long as we know the intent, advertising is not something where we don't know what will come out of it. I think from day one, we all are clear, what do we want to do. It's not fine art like an empty canvas and the artist doesn't know what will come out. It's not abstraction. Advertising is a science. And we know when we want to lure in people, or when we want to bring a certain shift. We have seen great brands like Ariel and Dove and so many greater brands. Exactly what Naheed said, that it can't be token that, oh, put one plus size girl and that's all kosher. No, it's not. You have to make sure that it's culturally curated, and only then you will see real impact or some impact. I mean, also not like larger size impacts. We all are so greedy for bigger changes that we start losing onto the impact of the smaller changes, because bigger changes take so much time, energy, money, all of those things. Let's start with the small, and I think will change. Uh,
Well, societies reflect media, advertising, and advertising, vice versa. So while the society is a mess, as we sort of agree, especially in the context of Pakistani society, I think little changes will go a long way. And as you said, one ad, 30-second, repeated maybe 20 times in a day. And if thousands of people watch it, little bits, it does make a difference. And you have to show how people can live a better life, just by changing those little things. So, and I think, it has to be sold to the brands because they are putting in the money, and I understand, the intent is clear. They have to sell a certain number of whatever items, uh, and they have to raise awareness, whatever the ROI is. But at the same time, I think the responsibility, the CSR aspect cannot completely be ignored. Uh, if the society is a mess, let's not make, let's not show the mess. Let's not, exaggerate the mess.
And
Yeah.
also that I think no society wants to see that upfront in front of the screen. We don't want to see the cracks. We love to shove things under the carpet as people. We are so trained and accustomed not to look at the problem. So then the task of advertising is to wrap it up and then make it palatable. Uh, I remember I was working for this uh, shampoo brand for young girls, and they said, "Oh, we want to work around girl child education, which is such a massive area to work on." And while I was working for them, I realized that in the last 77 years of Pakistani academic history, there has never been a single poem written for young girls. In the curriculum, there is not even a single poem written for young girls. even in the co-ed schools, what they will be reading is this iconic poem for boys, मैं छोटा सा एक लड़का हूँ पर काम करूंगा बड़े बड़े. I'm a young boy, but I'll do great big things. And it is part of the curriculum of grade 2 Urdu. Girls are reciting that for the last 77 years. Multiple governments changed, multiple times the curriculum was refreshed. Somehow this poem remains sacrosanct to the learning, which completely disregard not just a gender, but also the capability to dream and to be something beyond, because we are what we see, we are what we hear. Nothing was written. So very politely, I went to the brand and I said, I think it's time for us to rewrite this poem. And they said, this is part of the curriculum. Are you mad? This is national level curriculum that goes through government schools, semi-government school, and private schools. This is your Urdu language. What do you mean you want to change? I said, can we try? And we went to the only surviving female poet that we have in the country. And we said, can you write a female version? And she said, I'm 84. And I think I will do it with all my heart. She wrote a poem, मैं छोटी सी एक लड़की हूं पर काम करूंगी बड़े बड़े.
It's not
And
easy.
the calm was not कि मैं roti बनाऊंगी or I will be a good housewife or I will cook great food. No, she said, I will go and climb the mountains. I will go and explore the stars. And I remember it was her handwritten paper. And we went to the brand and this is Unilever's. And I said, we have something. You might not accept it immediately. And they were brilliant because there was a woman on the other side. She said, let me talk to the Ministry of Education. Within 4 days, we got the MOU signed to change the entire curriculum and make it part of the syllabus. Because somebody realized we need to fix it. The government jumped in and they said, okay, 40,000 schools will now have this poem. And now when young girls will open the Urdu book of grade 2, there is a version for them. For them to see that, okay, it's not just the boys. And this is such a small thing. But I think as creative or storytellers, if we are observant enough to see the cracks within that we can fill with our capabilities and our strengths, because like I'm not a scientist, I can't do great things, but we can influence a poetess to write something that will impact a whole new generation of young girls to dream. I realize that our strength as storytellers and creatives and imagineers is not maybe in our physical capabilities of doing things or even doing things with the larger machinery of the country, but just with a small thing, we can find way. We are very, very smart navigators. When we want to do something, we find a way. So smaller things, like exactly what you said, it doesn't have to be a CSR or one-offs, no? Like we need to
Yeah.
get
And stories. Ultimately, it's all about stories. And I think it doesn't matter where you're from or who you are. Stories are what appeals to
yeah.
people. So just tell a story, make it rooted in the reality, and yet, make it beautiful. How the reality should be beautiful. So
You both mentioned in the beginning of our conversation, and I know we've spoken a lot about Pakistan, and Pakistan is, of course, elevating and trying to, like Yawar said, fill the cracks and trying to make tiny changes. But you both mentioned that the West is advertising differently. It's telling, and I think Yawar, you said that it's telling the story like it is, whereas we are trying to tell the story as we would like it to be. So why do you think this difference exists?
I think we are 100 years behind in so many ways. Also in terms of our exposure to things at large. I think if we go back 1,000 years, this part of the world was very different in terms of academia, knowledge, exposure. And I think 1,000 years later now, we are on a very different bandwidth of understanding things. I think the West realized so many things over time, fixed it through popular medium, and not just advertising, but visual medium at large. I'll give you a small example. We all have seen Friends, which was Friends living together. Great 90s show. And there was no reliance of the family members of each of those characters. They were independent living in New York. And 10 years later, there was a show called The Modern Family, which was how a tapestry of different people coming together and the importance of family. And then we saw Schitt's Creek coming out of Canada, again, reliance on family. And somehow you subtly get the message that family is important. Why do all Christmas films have a family? Because they want realize that the whole idea of big Italian, Iranian, Pakistani, Indian family coming together, they romanticize the idea of families coming together. And now you see that impact coming in, not just through advertising, but through different visual mediums, from the series, from the movies, and from advertising. Why do all Hallmark cards, all the Coca-Cola Christmas ads are iconic, whether it's JC Penney Christmas ads, because it talks about the beauty of families coming together. And they were part of the learning curve to learn all of that, because they get evolve, at a different pace. So now when they show a true reflection of something, uh, they had the time to learn through errors. The blonde is not dumb anymore. The black person is not, a drug dealer anymore. They had time to fix it through Legally Blonde or the movie Crash, or all of those visual pieces that help us understand that a Mexican is not always a maid. A Latin is always a maid, and she can also run for presidency. We all learned that. Who taught us all of this? American media. And the media was the one 20 years ago that was only showing blondes as dumb. We all remember MTV Grind and MTV shows, which also shows, like, I'm sure we all have seen that Miss America clip when Miss Texas couldn't answer basic English thing, and they're like, oh, how stupid, so dumb.
Lots
Americans
of
don't.
biases, yeah.
And then they show, oh no, they're all so smart, and there was a whole the thing behind the smart American woman, that she's not stupid at all. Just because she's beautiful and blonde doesn't make her stupid. Just because somebody is black doesn't, you can't associate all negative things. And now we see Met Gala celebrating the dandy dapper black gentleman. So it takes them through a journey of understanding and fixing it. Pakistan does it slowly. We learn things very slowly. We go through so much economical crisis. You can only fix things and change things when you're financially sorted. The country is going through so many ups and downs, like so many third countries. How will you fix the moral code, uh, the right messaging? That requires, an evolved mind, and a mind that's has understanding and knowledge. So I don't think
Couple
so.
of things to add there. A couple of things. So you're talking about the media. Yeah, American media has, yeah, improved a lot. But when you go back to advertising, some ads are great, it has the messaging, but they've made their share of mistakes. The
Yeah,
Pepsi ad
yeah,
a few days
absolutely.
ago. And I go back to the fashion and beauty industry ads. It still is not the correct representation because they're targeting women and they're still not the correct representation. So ads are still not there. Another thing with the media, and at least with the UK media, which I'm more familiar with, is in terms of political correctness, they've gone too far as well, So if you watch recent British shows, they have to have a token black person, a token Asian person, an LGBT character. I mean, it's not needed, it's just, and you can see it's
So
not
forced.
relevant to the story.
Yeah.
It's not, so I think they're still also finding their way. And advertising wise, I really don't think they're there, especially when it comes to selling to women. That buying power of women, the world still hasn't really acknowledged that women are not where they were 50 years ago or even 30 years ago. They have really developed, they have become economically independent, which is where freedom lies, and freedom to buy things that they want to buy as well. There's a large population of single women who are not burdened by buying for their families. I'm talking about globally, obviously. I'm not talking about Pakistan. So but it all ties together. And in terms of Pakistan, again, economics is one thing. We were always a poor country. We were never a rich country. But why are we in such a mess now? And when I say mess, I mean culturally, socially. It's not what it used to be 20 years ago. We've regressed, and part of the regression, I would blame the media for that, because when regression happens and if you're shown an alternate way of living, people do learn, and if the message is repeated over and over again, people do learn, and that hasn't happened. So yeah, a few things to add to what you were saying.
But like this, I do a monthly podcast with called Cultural Watcher with one of the most eminent journalists in the country, and she looks at popular culture also, and we talk about the regression in media, especially when it comes to female gaze. Um, and there are a lot of factors. Like it's not that overnight we woke up and we turned from very progressive Roshan Khayal to very regressive archaic practices. It's by design. Uh, because we realize that what worked for the people in power when you dumb down the existence of women in a society. So it's not that it happened overnight.
No, it's happened over years. Garbage in, garbage
So,
out. We've been really fed garbage, and that's
and
what's
like
showing.
if we sort of draw an analysis on this, that it's not just men who was part of the dumbed down narrative. Women were also in a capacity of power, and the onus is also on them to raise a red
Of
flag that
course,
sorry,
they're the biggest flag bearers
um,
of patriarchy, the
uh,
way it is.
so
That's always there.
uh, I feel like there's a dissonance here in countries like Pakistan between the one keep creating and the one who is observing
Watching.
that content or watching that content.
Mm.
There's a huge disparity. I feel like the one who is creating and curating have no interest in showing anything that their belief system reflects.
Yeah.
They want to keep on harping on and repeating, which is a most populist, massy point of view. And
Exactly.
that
Yeah.
massy point of view encourages you to show a man beating his wife. They will keep on doing it. There's a huge thing that's going in the country right now, the debate that domestic violence is so normalized in Pakistani dramas. And every time I talk to the producers guild and producers, and they're like, well, that's what masses want to see. Our ratings go through the roof. And considering that women are watching those dramas, men are not.
Yeah.
There's a woman
Yeah.
writer, there's a female producer, there's a female director. Then how come you are not aware
This whole
of
multiple
all the
wives business, that's been
uh,
normalized. Again, when I
yes.
was growing up in
Yeah.
Karachi, we didn't even hear about these kind of things. And if ever it happened, it was frowned upon.
Uh,
And now it's sort of normalized. Everybody's talking about having a second wife or a third wife, and these celebrities who are flaunting them. Come on, it's when you show it in a TV
yeah.
drama and show it as if it's a normal thing to happen. That's when people say, "Oh, okay, if this person is doing it, why can't I do it?"
And
But
that's where,
oh, sorry.
uh,
Go ahead.
sorry. That's where we all have to learn the power of our voice. That when we hear a leading female celebrity endorsing that, we all come out and we comment on it, all of us in our capacity of power, that no, you are wrong, or at least you're not right, if not wrong.
Yeah.
Uh, that is where the social media is such an incredibly strong tool in a country like Pakistan, while it is so damaging on so many levels. But that is where you will see the change. Also, I think this kind of awareness doesn't belong to the larger pool of audience. Like I'm a thinking minority in my own country.
Yeah.
Like the belief system is different, but that's where we all realize that our words have power. We had Faisal in this country who wrote the most prolific things. He said, "Bol ke lab azad hain tere, bol ke ye zuban teri hai." It's
Yes.
not that he was asked to leave the country. He was in jail for so long. He continued to be the voice for the people, and the voice that believed what is right. Sarah is here. Her father was an eminent political analyst and writer. Every time I will talk to him, and you are so awake. After a 5-second conversation, you realize if somebody jolted you, because he will show you a very different side of Pakistan than what we're talking about right now. They were believers of change, knowing that change will not be easy. Uh, Knowing the power of a book or a web series or an ad, for that matter. I mean, the business that we are in, or the conversation we are having around. Sarah, sorry, go on.
No, actually, you touched upon it, Yawar, and I wanted to, I know we're talking a lot about mass media and everything, but I think we forget that, not forget, I feel like we sometimes don't realize the power of the most influencing thing in our hand, which is the phone. And what I wanted to ask you guys is, social media is driving change, it's driving opinion, it's changing narratives. Where is advertising factoring into that? Because now I know you mentioned that we have a voice, we should use it wisely, but is everyone? And what should advertisers be doing now across social media now with this whole um, AI powered algorithm which sort of feed into your narratives or the existing or pre existing narratives that you have? Now that everybody has access to speaking and sharing their voice and hearing everybody else's voices, where does advertising come in now? You know, how can advertising sort of seep in and either manipulate or elevate or where do you think it stands right now?
Yawar, do you want to go first? Or
I mean, I can. I feel like advertising is not run like an NGO. It's not a non-profit.
Mm,
A non ad, advertising agency or advertising business can have an NGO or a purpose-driven, agenda-driven brand or partner. Uh, they can't do most of these things on their own. Now
mm,
coming to the thinking part of advertising business that people like us who are in the business, uh, the power of social media, of course, we are well aware of it. And it's a two-edged sword. Uh, when you say something slightly off, we also know the immediate reaction that people get on that medium. I think one thing that changed in Pakistan was after the arrival of TikTok. And this Chinese app, I don't think so anyone noticed what it was doing in the first 3 years when it came. And especially ads and brands were so cocky and arrogant about the existence of TikTok. They're like, "Ah, we will not talk to this." Like, they are just producing random things. And now we all are very seriously looking at it because it gave the voice to the most vilified in the society.
mm,
Pakistani TikTok have the most eminent transgender dancers, the most eminent trans activists, farmers, you have housewives from the age of 20 to 84, home chefs, you have micro beauty influencers from the tiniest possible remote towns, you have little boys who love to dress up and dance, all of those people who were like the outcast for popular medium. I would have
yeah, we're sorry,
never
your voice just broke up. Can you repeat the last sentence?
I thought
Yeah, right.
they won't fit in. Hear me? Can you hear me
Yes,
now?
sorry,
Was
we
my
I
screen
think
lost
it's
we
frozen?
back
lost a
now.
few
Yeah.
things that you said. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I was saying that, us as advertising practitioners, in the earlier days, we were so cocky and arrogant about TikTok. And the
Yeah.
people on the app, we like, of why will we go and talk to all these people? They were the outcast, the blue
Mm,
collar workers, the mechanics, the farmers. Now, when you look at it, the biggest performing artist in the country is a transgender dancer called Malik. She makes more money than anyone out there through TikTok.
mm,
There's a farmer out there called Bhola who has, God knows, 16 million followers and makes so much money from TikTok, but all he does is show how to farm certain things. Or a micro influencer from a tier 3 town. Uh, I think now brands are late to jump onto the app.
mm,
Uh, Now we all want to look at the media mix and said, oh, do we have anything for TikTok? And then you have to engage with these people. And we all have to realize that there is a fan following for them. It might not fit in our visual universe because I think we all are so comfortable with having people like us shown in ads that we do or campaigns that we do. We stop looking outside. And somehow, as progressive as we all want to be, at times we all become so pigeonholed, even in our own imagination. I love when we divide consumer base SEC ABC, housewife age 18 to 24,
right,
and that's pretty much it. And TikTok came and it completely broke the shackles and the norm. And it's
right.
actually There's a very raunchy dancer, but people are obsessed with her. And I thought, how can this be possible in a country like Pakistan? Are they mad? We banned Joyland. We're gonna burn this woman down. No, this woman said, nobody will harm me. I have an app and I have my own fan base. So I think we all have to learn new things and keep on refreshing our viewing habits also. I think denying a truth that doesn't fit our moral compass or our visual, world won't help the business at all. We can only be empathetic, bring change when we look at social media and learn immediately. What are the trends?
So in terms of
What is happening out
advertising,
there?
Yawar, this dancer that you're talking about, Mehak. So what's the audience like? Because this is the first time hearing about this. So there's millions of audience. So who are they? If you had to break them into
Rated, she's
groups.
venerated to the point of like RuPaul for the drags.
Okay.
And having said that, my assumption was, and again, we also naive when when we want to be naive about certain things. And I thought, oh, this must be just the trans community. We don't have that kind of a massive trans
No,
community.
no,
And
no. That's what I'm saying. It's if
oh,
it's such
and
a
then I
big
thought
group.
it must be the blue collar workers who must be
Yeah.
watching the shows out there, the truck drivers, the mechanics, the plumbers.
Yeah.
Actually, not. She makes maximum money from going to these big weddings, those billionaire weddings as the performer of the
So
night.
as a live performer.
Uh,
Okay. Got
and
it.
then
Got it.
when she does her own TikTok videos, she supports her family. She got them a new big house, and
Yeah.
she's praying, and she's very pious. She won't shake hands with a girl because she knows her own truth. Media is obsessed with her because they said, "Oh my
Wow.
God, she is just incredible." Now
Okay.
coming to the business side of things, then I thought, which brand will partner with her? I know the
Yeah.
thought, oh, she must be struggling, bichari. Clearly not. There were so many smaller micro brands in the country that only caters to your lower socioeconomic brackets or your peri-urban towns. The reach of the big brands is not through the villages and the smaller towns in the country. She is the face of tons of shampoo brands and beauty brands and lawn and fashion brands in the country. And I thought, which woman wants to see? And again, my own ignorance. I thought, which heterosexual woman would like to see a transgender wearing femme clothes and will get inspired to buy those clothes? I was highly mistaken.
So
Now
you're
she
saying that social media ended up influencing advertisers?
absolutely, and again, I could have, like me, will have been in deep denial. Be like, oh, it doesn't exist because she's not neither my consumer, not my inspiration, and I'm
Yeah.
living in the dark. She's definitely, when you have millions of followers, these are not people
Who
from
can
Mars.
influence? Yeah.
They are from here. It's not that Americans are following her. These are Pakistani following her. She must be doing something right. And the impact of her is that she then got migrated from TikTok to mainstream media, where morning shows will call her, big shows will call her to have a conversation
So
about her.
advertising is rallying around her, sort of. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's the power of social media. That
Naheed,
for
what about what do you
So
think?
I can talk about the UAE because I live here.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in terms of yes, Instagram is big here. I'm
Yeah.
not on TikTok. I don't follow TikTok, so I don't know about that. But yes, Instagram is where you reach your customers, and people are selling all kinds of things through influencers. Because I run an agency, I've worked with people like Helen Farmer, for example,
Yeah.
who's known for her authentic self. She's grown this following. She's a media person, but she's grown this following, and she's made this side hustle where she's earning substantial money by just selling anything. So with us, she worked on a jewelry brand, and she involved her young daughter in it and buying her a little present, little diamond on her 8th birthday, that kind of thing. Authentic storytelling, an authentic person, and she links with people overall. There are a couple of Pakistani influencers, and I'm not again a target audience, but yet I've bought things because they've recommended it. So yes, social media has that power, and mainly because you are directly talking to a consumer. So you're talking to a person who's bought and used this product, and again, that kind of trust factor plays a part, because there are all these influencers, but who do you trust? Who do you relate to? Who do you sort of in a way connect with? And Helen comes to mind because she's authentic, and there are
Yeah.
others, you know.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter that you may have millions and millions of followers, but eventually, you know, people buy things on recommendations when they trust the person who recommends it. Like in real life, you know,
Yeah.
referrals play a big part. So in
Yeah.
my business for a small agency, referrals is where things come in, and same for buying. So yeah, social media, I mean, again, TikTok, that's an amazing story, and I'll look her up. But here I would say Instagram and Facebook. Surprisingly, Facebook, you know, so Facebook is not what it was, obviously, all those years ago. And now it's not even a social media per se, but people buy things off Facebook, or people find accommodation off Facebook or jobs off Facebook, and there are groups. And they actually, you know, I would say make more sales through that, and large scale sales like property.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't have thought, you know, maybe even 10 years ago that people would buy property off Facebook, but it's happening. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
But my
No, like
question
you
to
said
both of
something
you
so
then.
that,
Sorry, go ahead,
sorry,
Yawar.
I just want to say, like, you said something so wise that as much as we rely on technology and all of that, but the word of mouth will still be the strongest medium
Of
out
course. And you
there.
and you know, if you sort of like the person, I think we
Uh,
humans want to like people. We need that connection. So that's important, even if it's
opposite,
somebody we
uh,
don't know.
how Instagram completely changed the beauty narrative. After Instagram, we saw so many beauty brands from Southeast Asia coming out, making things for brown skin.
Yeah.
And so many brown influencers coming out and saying that, oh, well, this Charlotte Tilbury or this cosmetic is not made for our skin. It's making us look gray. And all of a sudden, you see a lot of South Asian influencers trying that palette from top tier French brands. And they're like, see, it's not working for our skin. Our pigment is brown. We need a certain kind of coverage. And we see the rise of so many international foreign French brands now having a brown person, being more aware, more conscious of that. Uh, Sabine wrote something.
Yes.
Should I?
Fenty, yeah. Fenty
There,
was,
Rihanna
yeah.
was
there.
groundbreaking with
Thank you.
Fenty from Sabine. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
and YouTube. How
Yeah,
can we
so
not
there you
talk
go.
about YouTube? You know,
Yeah.
YouTube
Absolutely.
is reaches all kinds of age groups, and people are, you know, subscribing to channels, paying to subscribe to channels. And like my own mother, who's in her 70s, you know, she uses, she's a gardener, so I learned this, and so
Yeah.
it's changing. Social media is changing mindsets, and it's my only problem with social media in Pakistan is, you know, when you see these smartphones in the hands of people who are not literate, um, it's, you know, it's going from 0 to 100 with nothing in between. You know, it's not an organic growth. So TikTok, using TikTok for whatever means, but not knowing how to read, I just feel, you know, it should be, again, it's a country's problem. It's not an advertising problem. It's a country's problem.
So
You
basically,
know,
if I sorry, Yawar, go ahead.
no, go on, go on, go on. Please go on.
No, no, I was just saying that listening to both of you, it seems that even though influencing and is finding its place and mass influencing now, the ethics of it are still not very are still in the gray. It seems, right?
Evolutionary, it's all in evolution. It's all evolving, you know. It's I think it's all relatively new, and more new things are coming up, you know. You can't keep up with tech the way things just
Yeah,
keep coming up. So I think maybe in 10 years time or something we'll get somewhere, but I think right now it's all yeah, we are making rules as we go along and
yeah,
breaking them as
I don't
well.
think so.
So
We can ever be in black and white. I don't think so. Neither as people nor as societies. We've always been gray because who will set up the barometer or to gauge this is black and this is white? Big people doesn't work that way. Societies don't work that way. Neither will advertising be. I think we all will.
yeah,
Uh, I've said this before, we should never say we will never do this because we all change so quickly. And that's a great thing about advertising. If in the 50s American was showing women as the perfect homemakers, Now I don't think so they can show that, because she's beyond a homemaker.
Mad Men, watch what Mad Men,
So
you know what if, yeah.
yeah. So now I think we all learn, and we should quickly change. At times the change is very slow and it frustrates all of us. That, oh, but I know and I have changed. Why are the society is not changing? Why the advertising is not impacting as it should? And I think that's where patience will be a huge virtue. Because I feel that us as thinkers, we feel like, oh, it should happen now. Like I thought of it, and I feel like I'm so late in the game. People should accept it. uh, in a country like Pakistan, the change is always extremely slow. Uh, I think it's one of those few countries where people are not open to change. There's comfort in the what's known. So that's where most of the people with an idea to bring comfort change, they
No,
give
it
up.
wasn't
They
like
lose
that,
hope because it's a
Yawar. The sad part is it
I
wasn't
know,
like
yeah.
that. It's this toxic mix of religion, culture, tradition that's made us so close-minded to anything that's new. It's because we judge it on those three things, and we think, okay, the
Also, I feel like, Naheed, that
self-righteousness.
we spend so much time in identifying the problem, and then mull over it. I think now it's time for solutions. We all know the mix of culture, religion, people is what mess things up. Power,
Hmm.
political issues. We all know that. I think now, I'm very happy with the younger kids.
Yeah.
They are solution oriented. Uh, a lot of younger Pakistani kids are doing great things, in tech, in fashion, in different things, in fine arts, in capacity of performing arts, in capacity of entrepreneurship. They are doing great things because they are solution oriented. I feel like my generation, we just mull over problems. This is a problem state. This is a problem state. The issue country has so many issues. We all have to now live with that and then say, okay, the prescriptions have been made. We have run through all the lab tests. Now it's time to actually find the panacea. And that can only happen when within our capacity, we're like, let me change this much. And only then it will happen. Because I exhausted my first 10 years of advertising career fighting for change. And it frustrates, it makes you tired also. It also disrupts the system that you are in.
Yeah.
Because if like you are the one with the problem. And I feel like now we all know what the problem this country got, the media got, the advertising and the power of it.
Yeah.
Now I think it's time to find solutions.
But isn't there an element of self-censorship, even with the younger ones, considering the kind of society that we live in, which does not hesitate to resort to violence if something doesn't go their way? So isn't there an element of self-censorship?
Now, to my surprise, I, I I'll just give you small examples of fashion in the country. I run a small clothing brand, and I'm always so alarmed. What will people do with the clothes? Because every time there's a model who said, "Oh, I want to do a risky shoot," and I'm dying from inside that. Are you bad? People will see the shoot, they can come and harm you because I'm behind it. I don't know much. Uh, these young kids, they don't care much. They have find a way to nurture their voice, even on the risk of being trolled heavily on social media. They are willing to take that risk. Uh, when you look at local fashion brands like Rasta, that's completely changing the fashion game. And they're stocking at different big multi-brand stores. And you feel like, what are they selling? They're selling Pakistani craft. That's
Yes.
it, handmade. When you look at their choice of models, androgynous, almost vague gender orientation, very alternate body types, and very at times very risky shoots. And I'm always
Yes.
dying. And I know Zen, the designer behind it. I was like, oh my God, someday somebody will shift from all this love and
So
accolades.
what platforms are they using for these shoots?
Instagram, Instagram.
Instagram. Because I
Instagram.
remember, again, would be, I don't know, 20 years ago, Extra. Do you remember
Yeah,
Extra?
of course,
So
Fifi's.
I worked with Fifi
Uh,
for a bit, I was in Pakistan still, and I worked with Fifi for a bit. And that was a groundbreaking, just platform. It
Absolutely.
was,
And also,
I mean,
it,
we worked on such taboo topics and the
if you
shoots
know
and
Fifi, she never care. She's like, I don't care. I want to do
yeah.
this, and I
But
want
again,
to do it with
they
my
were
belief
less
system.
violent times.
Yeah, yeah,
I still think of those times with a little bit of fondness because
yeah.
violence, the way it is now, such a fabric of a society, it was dangerous, yes, but it wasn't that dangerous. Now it's just, or maybe, just
I
being
think
out of
it was
Pakistan does that to you. You get more scared about things, but yeah.
it was always dangerous, to be honest. Even when Ziaul was in power, when we
Oh,
had
yeah, it
martial
was
law,
horrible then. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you still had a Madam Noor Jahan singing things that should not have sung.
Iqbal Bano in her
Iqbal.
sari making a
So,
statement.
and a lot of very progressive Naheed Siddiqui, the dancer, all of these people, they're like,
Kima Kirmani is still doing what she's
and
doing,
they're like,
which
we
is
don't care.
amazing.
You would, Salima Hashmi, Munisa Hashmi, all of these really strong people, they're like, the max you can do is ask us to leave the country, which we won't. The max you can do is kill us, but you can't kill our voice. And I think the reason why they were able to do so much is because they say that we will still say what we believe in.
Yeah.
Also, the trolls were not exposed directly to you. Uh,
Now with
now
social
the
media, you
tactile
see it.
nature, the
That's the
social
thing.
media,
Yeah, that's the thing.
we get alarmed so quickly. We say something, and the next day we start after a second we start getting trolls for saying something which doesn't fit in the cultural.
That's what I'm saying. It's
Uh,
more dangerous because, for example, Extra, it was just limited to a certain number of people. You had to be an English speaker because yeah, those were really good material to read and whatever. Now, something like that would be on social as well, and it's accessible to everyone. And on social media, I see, and I find it funny because there are all these people trolling actresses and models and just objecting about how they're dressed and like why are they following these people, why are they so it's there. It's if you are a female, a young woman working in Pakistan in showbiz, I just feel you've got to be brave to be facing all these nameless people really, who can become real and can become violent.
I think these girls who are in the media in top positions, they are extremely aware. They are very smart and they know how to manage the trolls. I think they learn it on the job, how to sift through the clutter and the noise.
Mm.
And they're unhinged. And exactly how Extra was back in the day, they were unhinged. They were never doing it for the popular vote, or
Yes.
they were not playing Miss Congeniality to get maximum love. Uh, and I think somehow with like this like button on social media, we all want to be liked and fit in, which is such a a tricky place to be in. We all want to say the right things, and then the moment we see 500 likes, 600 likes, and we're like, oh, so they're liking what I'm
This
saying,
works. Yeah.
and we take it with all our heart, and we take it as gospel truth. And the moment they start hating us, we're like, oh, trollers, they don't understand us, so we don't understand the dynamic of love and hate. When it comes our way, love we will take, hate we will sort of disregard, uh without realizing that both things are equally fickle and they mean nothing. uh,
Yeah.
they
But
just
on that note, though, I want to ask you both because I know we spoke about how social media is influencing, how influencers now have more say and more visibility than brands do. What do you both think? And I'm mindful that I've kept you both longer than was intended. It's just it's been so fun, but I want to know what do you guys think, in your opinion, Naheed, you looking with your experience, Yawar with everything that you have going on, what is where is advertising going to go? Is it going to marry itself further with social media? Is it going to separate itself? Are we going to go back to traditional? And how is this sort of public shaping going to continue?
Well, social is not going anywhere. If anything, social is growing. It's growing in different ways. Different
Right.
channels are coming up. So social is going to be there. But I think what's not going away is storytelling. So ultimately, story is king. no matter what the format. It can be traditional media, it can be television, it can be social, whatever, radio. Storytelling is where things are. And you see it in social as well. People who have a following, who have engagement, are storytellers. Again, going back to Helen, she tells stories,
Yeah,
and that's why she has that kind of following
yeah,
in the UAE terms. And I'm sure there are, influencers all over the world who are big because they are storytellers. So that's happening. Advertising again, I think ideally that's my wish, that responsibility factor comes in, and where you tell good stories, you tell stories that do some good for the world, that, and especially in a country like Pakistan, or in countries like Pakistan, that responsibility is very real. you know
right.
just don't normalize things that are happening, but normalize things that should be, or that were in the past very much a part of our society, and that we've somehow forgotten about.
Yeah. So use social media as a means to get the message across even better.
Yeah, that's true, because the access is unlimited.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yawar, sorry, we lost you there for a
I feel
second.
I'm back now. I feel the lines will be blurred completely, traditional and the contemporary, or we don't know 20 years from today what new mediums will arrive. Uh, Having said that, what we will not lose is the power of storytelling. It has been there since the Stone Ages. I think we all love to gather around fire, the hearth, and tell stories. Uh,
Yeah.
we all are storytellers by nature, and whether we are drawing it in caves or whether we are telling it verbally, advertising will, I think, won't should not bifurcate mediums the way it was done traditionally. I think now more than ever, we all need to realize the cohesive power of an idea across mediums. And I think the end goal should be it should reach maximum people. uh, and we can't be judgmental. At least, and I'm talking about myself. I think most of us are very judgmental about choosing mediums, and feel like, oh, but this is not what where our consumer base is. We don't know.
Mm.
My mother, who is 80, is perpetually on YouTube and ordering things that she should not order. But I think she gets so excited on things, and then she will come to the dinner table bringing quoting facts from YouTube as if this came out of Harvard Medical Journal. Okay, oh, by the way, I saw this on YouTube. Now you tell me. And I feel that I don't think so ever in my boardroom conversation I will ever think of an 80-year-old woman using tech and making the most of her time. I think our general disregard, we need to review that and understand the power of stories more than ever. I think in the 20 years ago, if we had 20 viewers, now we have 2 million. That is the impact of the visual stories to travel further, far and wide. You know what Naheed was saying about Fifi's magazine, that it had limited viewer base or reader base at that point. If it would have been in now a visual medium or something which was moving visual, it will have traveled far and wide. I wish Fifi should do this, like now make an e-version of those magazines for us to review. But yeah, I
I
think
know.
understanding the power of all the visual mediums, not bifurcating the traditional versus modern, Insta versus TikTok, or whatever the future holds for us. We need to just garner stories, uh, constantly nurture ourselves and our imagination, evolve, not get stuck on one belief system, because people are
And
changing
look at the
constantly.
customer base. Look at just
Yes,
what you
yes, you're
said about your
absolutely
mother and my mother. And these are the people who have the buying power, who have the
yes,
disposable income. They're done with their responsibilities. So, somehow advertising seems to neglect that older age group, and that's a mistake, because they
absolutely.
really have the buying power. So tell stories that appeals to those, that segment, and target that segment in different ways. Again, traditional, a mix of everything, but the storytelling should be focused on them. They buy off YouTube. They even, my mom's having fun with Amazon. So so it's
Love it.
dangerous, but yeah,
Like
it's
we
there.
all are.
Yeah, but a 75-year-old woman,
I love it.
not so much.
Both of you, thank you so much. This was so interesting. I mean, advertising has been a passion for years, but it's always so nice to hear from two brilliant people. Thank you for spending the afternoon.
Thank
Do you
you,
guys have
Sarah.
any questions or anything that you would like to end on?
No, I think we've said quite a lot, Yawar.
Yeah,
Anything to
yeah, but
No, thank you for this incredible session of sharing thoughts. I think this what you have done, Sarah, right now, and people behind this event. Uh, this is what we should do more of sharing stories. We all are attached to Southeast Asia with very different exposure, belief system. And the more we do, we will see the impact of it, not just in advertising, but in arts, applied arts, fine arts, literature. It will have shape our collective consciousness in a very different way, because when we see people who look like us say things that we might not agree, but there's a stronger belief system that, oh, let's talk about it. So the power of conversation. So thank you so much for introducing me to some lovely people through this.
thank you so much for your time.
Okay, thank you, Sarah.
Well,
Thank you,
both of
Yawar.
you,
Thank you,
thank
Sabine.
you.